Much. Now I'm happy to give the floor to Iftitahsari, who's a researcher at the Institute of Criminal Justice Reform based in Jakarta. You have the floor for another 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. May I have an access for share screen, David? Yeah, okay. I prepare some PPTs for my presentation. So thank you very much for inviting me, David and Marco, to this forum. We are very glad to also join this event. And in this discussion, I will try to talk more about the how war on drug situation in Indonesia and how it affects the death penalty impositions and then the situation of fair trial in Indonesia. But before then, I will also talk a bit more about the extrajudicial killings that also happens here in Indonesia because of that promotion of war on drugs from the governments, but not really in the deep issue. But so this is how I will try to frame when we talk about war on drugs in Indonesia. So actually there are two impacts on this kind of promotion. The first thing first is about the extrajudicial killings, as we also oversee in the colleagues from the Philippines that explained before about how the massive it is occurring in that country, but it also happens in our country, in Indonesia. And then secondly, it is also the serious issue here, the death penalty for drug-related crimes. Because after the announcement of the war on drugs, the numbers of death penalty, especially for drug-related crimes, are jumping. I will try to show it to you later. And then with regards to the death penalty cases, I will also try to highlight about the trend of the execution, also in the number of indictment and sentence. And lastly, about the violations of the right to a fair trial. That's also very common to be found in the death penalty cases, particularly in the drug-related crimes. Yeah, this is the overview of the war on drugs in Indonesia that has been promoted by our president Joko Widodo in the couple of months after he's been appointed as the president. So just I think about 3 or 4 months after he's elected, and then he declares the war on drugs, and it's even stated in the official website, the Cabinet Secretariat, to make it as official that the government are on the stand of the war on drugs slogans. And then following that promotion, following that denunciation, the BNN, or National Narcotic Agency, also point out some arguments or some claims, especially in the public, that they are not hesitate to shoot to death, especially for drug dealers or drug mules when they found them in practice. And besides the extrajudicial killing that I mentioned before, there is also tendencies to use more harsh punishment in this occasion. It's capital punishment. So the number of death penalty has been rising since 2015. And then in overview, maybe we don't have the numbers, the official numbers of the judicial killings in Indonesia, but we do some. There are some CSOs, Contras, and the Commission on Disappeared and Victim of Violence, and then Legal Aid Institute of Masyarakat, LBH Masyarakat. They are gathering the data from media monitoring, and this is what we found actually from July 2020 to May 2021. There are 319 incidents, but it's in general, it's not necessarily in the case of drug related offenders, but in 2019 and then from 2019 and 2020, the numbers is quite a bit higher. Actually, there are 543 incidents, and we can identify some of the victims here. There are 41 drug mules and 38 drug dealers or kingpin. And from those incidents, in total, there are 287 people killed. And then in 2018, this is only graphic, or there's only numbers for drug-related offenders. There are 159 incidents that kills 68 people. And then in 2017, this is also for drug-related offenders. They are much higher than 2018. There are 215 incidents that kills 99 people. So this overall, this is the unofficial numbers that have been gathered by the CSOs in Indonesia that concerns on the issues of drug issues, and then also those who are concerned with the issues of police brutality. That we also concerns with the excessive use of force by police, actually not only because of the war on drugs. Actually, in general, we also have these problems with the issues of police brutality, since they have a very broad authority and lack of accountability. And then there is also there is no effective mechanism of overview to overview their authority and then make a effective control of this authority for the police. So, for instance, in colleagues from Amnesty International Indonesia, they have been monitoring about the issues of unlawful killings in Papua, and then there is also an issue in the last year, in 2020, when the narration of extrajudicial killing is also promoted for the recidivism, when we are trying to release a number of prisoners due to COVID measures. And then the last cases, maybe the prominent one is about the FBI shooting. So it's the leaders of Muslim, one of the leaders of Muslim Indonesia, and then some of the followers, sort of the bodyguards, they are have been killed in the street, and there is no mechanism to control that accountability. I think up until now they are still questioning this issue, and the process is, I'm not sure it's still going anywhere. So there is no specific, or there is no significant development on this issue, because of we don't have that kind of accountability mechanism that can hold the police who use the excessive use by force, or excessive use of force in a mechanism that can be accountable. And then now we are going to the judicial killings. After we talk about the extrajudicial, then now we are talking about the judicial killings. This is the list of executions. So as I mentioned before, just a couple of months after our president has been elected and become the president, he conducted an execution in the first batch execution on the 18 January 2015. And in total, we can see that majority of the people who are in the death row who have been executed are foreign nationals, and we only see 3 Indonesian people among 18 people here. So this is actually what's happening here in Indonesia, when the government also shows also see that the foreign drug dealers as a threat to the drug issues in Indonesia. And then we are going to the issues of the cases of indictment and the sentence. So this is the trend of the death penalty cases, particularly on the drug-related crimes. So we see that from the 2015, there are 76 cases. This is captured by the ICJR's annual report. So we've been conducting monitoring on the death penalty cases since 2015, and we have published annual reports in commemorating the death penalty day in October 10th. And this is what we found since 2015 and 2020. Although we have sort of decrease in the number in 2016 and 2018, but actually because this is the data that we gathered are from the media monitoring, so actually the actual numbers are could be higher than what we've got here. And then another interesting point is that during the pandemic, you can see that the number is even almost double. From 2018, there is a significant increases in the numbers of death penalty, particularly in the drug-related crimes. So, and as we expected, the majority of the cases are narcotics drugs. We can see from 2015, there are 76 cases on narcotics among out of 88, and then in 2018 there are also 22 cases out of 28, and then there's also 31 cases in 2017. And then in 2018, 2019, and 2020, as in the diagram, we can see that the majority of the cases are drug-related crimes. And then this is the point that I really want to stress about in this presentation, because this is quite important, and this is really serious issues that we have been facing here in Indonesia when it comes to war on drug slogans, and we have the problem of the continued numbers of death penalty cases, particularly on drug-related crimes. But actually, our criminal justice system fails to guarantee that the right to a fair trial for the defendants. And so we have been conducting research from 2018, 2017, 2018, and we published it in 2019. We are analyzing about 306 court decisions on the death penalty cases. It consists of 100 death penalty cases. And then from those cases, we have identified 180 defendants, and the majority of them, as expected, is 75 drug-related offenders, as compared to the 43 offenders of premeditated murders. And we found that the cases are in 19 provinces out of 33 provinces in total in Indonesia. And I'm sorry, because this is only in Indonesian, so we're still in the process of translating it. And this is what we found. Actually, there is a significant jump, as I mentioned before, after the promotion, after the denunciation of the war on drugs in the early governance of President Jokowi. So before, in 2014, there's only 7 cases, and before then, you can see that there is no higher than 5 cases for drug-related crimes. But when it hits 2015, the numbers are jumped like almost 4 times into 36. And then in 2016, the number seems lower, but that's because I think I have to make a disclaimer here, because there is the data that we've gathered is basically the court decisions that have been final and binding. So by the time we are conducting the research, some of the cases that registered in 2016 has not been final and binding yet. So that's why we have excluded many of them, and we have only see some of them, and we stop from there. And then when we compare it to the non-drug related crimes, we can also see that the number is quite stable compared to the narcotics drugs, with only 2, 1, or 5, or maybe 6 cases the highest. And then this is also the interesting part that we also found in our research, is that the reasoning why the judges mention in the court decisions why they tend to impose the death penalty is because they are also mentioned about the war on drugs in that court decision. So they are clearly stated in the court decision that we are in the war on drugs, so that's why we have to impose with the death penalty. That's the second highest reasons why the judges that we found in the court decisions to impose the death penalty. And then there is also another reason related to drug issues is about the amount of drugs as evidence. So when the cases when the cases has like more than 100 kilograms or tons of drugs, then the judges will tend to put the defendants to render the defendants death penalty. So that's what we found, and this is the 5 highest reasons why the judges in our research, why the judge imposed the death penalty. Meanwhile, the first highest reasons is that it's very common reasons, because the law says so. The law says that we can.
1 minute, Tita, please.
Okay, thank you. We have it is stated in the law, so it's allowed to impose the death penalty. And then the other reasons like proportional punishment and then the deterrent effect, we also found that in our research. And this is also the violation of fair trial rights that we also found before and after before the trial. We found there is also right to free from torture, and then there is also violation of the not arbitrarily arrested and detained, and also access to legal counsel that has been denied. And then during the trial, we also have a violation of the right to conduct a cross-examination because the witness has not been found yet, and then particularly in the drug-related case. And then there is also a violation of non-self-incrimination, where the defendant's statement has been solely used as evidence to impose the death penalty. And then we also have problems with trial without undue delay, particularly with regards to the detention period. And then access to interpreter are also problematic here, because there are some cases where the defendants are not assisted by interpreter when they cannot speak Indonesian, bahasa Indonesia. And then lastly, there's also a problem with the competent, impartial, and independent tribunal, where the judges neglected the other evidence and only refers to the prosecutors. And then this is the some of the cases that are very famous in Indonesia, how they are being tortured in the investigation, and then their claims and their statement during the investigation has become the evidence to impose the death penalty. So finally, the conclusion is that there are still war on drugs slogan. There are still the government is still denouncing and still promoting war on drugs until now, despite there is a undermining the rule of law and there is a human rights violation during the process of judicial. But the war on drugs is still occurring. And then the extrajudicial killings are also still frequently occurring, but there is no accountability that we can question that even that incidents. We don't have any mechanisms, the proper mechanisms to hold those accountable. And then lastly, while the number of people sentenced to death is still rising, particularly for drug-related crimes, but on the other hand, the Indonesian criminal justice system still fails to guarantee the right to a fair trial. So I think that's all from me. Thank you very much from your attention.
Thank you, Tita. Thank you very much. May not be a case that the International Narcotic Control Board, in their presentation of their yearly report, have started to single out not countries, but certainly the misuse of the death penalty for drug-related crimes. And I think it might have been, in fact, 2015, the year in which they started to say that, and for a reason.